Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Chachudash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well, and a sincere shalom to you, Akim, who be pushing this word around the globe in faith and in truth and in sincerity. So, as always, I want to start by saying that we are the true Hebrew Israelites. The true Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, and West Africans. Not only that, but this applies to anybody who may look like any of the other 17 nations. But if your seed line by your father goes back to the man in the Bible named Israel, then you too are an Israelite no matter what you look like. But if you want to learn more about that, just Google GMS 12 tribe sign. So I'm going to do a lesson here going into something that I found quite interesting because over here in the UK, particularly in London, there's a sort of spirit around here where people think that, oh, they're so posh and oh, they're so well off and all they're doing so great. When in reality, this city is a shithole. The whole world has become a shithole because the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, which is Isaiah 24:5, which I'll get that scripture later. But basically, this article says, City watchdog takes aim at staff over shameful toilet habits. Yeah. It says the body tasked with ensuring the financial sector cleans up its act, taking a hard look at its own staff, according to a memo. And this story was published on Tuesday, 12th of November. So that's yesterday. It says the FCA moved into its Endeavour Square premises in 2018. So let's get into this. It says the City Watchdog has appealed for its staff to clean up their own act over shameful working conditions at the regulator's New London headquarters. The Chief Operating Officer of the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, said in their message to workers that the problems varied from everyday cleanliness issues to instances of workers defecating and urinating on the floors. Now, any man that's in this truth and is of the hopeful elect, you should have read, the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses. And in our law, we've got certain laws about cleanliness and certain things which are clean and certain things which are unclean. And for me personally, that was one of the main things that woke me up to the fact that, hang on a minute, the Bible's speaking about us because, all my life, cleanliness has always been a sort of thing that's been heavy in my family. Like, there's certain ways we do things. Like, for example, the way my mother would prepare meat. I'd look at that and I'd be hanging it. When I was older, obviously, I'd be hanging a minute. This is like, kind of scriptural, the way it says, you're supposed to wash your meat. Whereas I'd notice other people, i.e. Edomites, they don't wash their meat before they cook it. They're just really filthy. They're really unclean people, And for those who don't know who the Edomites are so-called white people, because there's no such thing as black people or white people. These are made-up terms in the Bible. Yahweh gave the names for all the nations, i.e. Ammonites, Moabites, Edomites, Assyrians, Edomites, Israelites, so on and so forth. We all had biblical names. So the biblical name for you so-called white people is the Edomites, because you're the descendants of the man named Esau, who was Jacob's brother. You can read about that in Genesis 25. So basically, cleanliness was always something that was heavy when I was being brought up. So let's get back into this. It says, let me read the last paragraph. It says, the Chief Operating Officer of the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, said in the message to workers that the problems varied from everyday cleanliness issues to instances of workers defecating and urinating on floors. So how fucked up have you got to be pissing and shitting on the floor, man? There's a saying, it says you shouldn't shit where you eat. But Esau don't apply these things. Esau ain't got no wisdom because Esau's a base man. So let's keep going. It says, Georgina Philippou wrote she was appalled by the instances of bad behaviour towards our building and colleagues. Andrew Bailey, see this Edomite man here. And again, as I said, you white people aren't white, because if you look at the background of the screen, that's white. If you look at his face, it's red. If you look at his shirt, it's white. If you look at his face, it's red because he's an Edomite, yeah? Andrew Bailey, former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, runs the FCA. The letter, first published by the Evening Standard, listed the problems as leaving cutlery and crockery in the kitchen areas, overflowing bins, stealing plants and charging cables from desks, catering and security teams being subject to verbal abuse, colleagues defecating onto the floor in toilet cubicles on a particular floor. Now, why the hell are you going to do that, man? Why are you going to go to the toilet and shit on the floor when you're in the toilet cubicle? That don't make no sense, man. Urinating on the floor in the men's toilets and leaving alcohol bottles in sanitary bins. Miss Philippou added, "You may have heard about some of these behaviours already, and I'm sure others will come as a shock. I did think long and hard about whether to disclose all of these behaviours because they are so distasteful and shameful, but keeping quiet has not got us far in terms of changing behaviours. This kind of behaviour is unacceptable and will not be tolerated here." The letter blamed a minority of colleagues for the problems at the 60 million site in Stratford's Endeavour Square. Okay. The FCA is run by Chief Executive Andrew Bailey, seen as being among the frontrunners to succeed Mark Carney as the governor of the Bank of England when he steps down in January. Commenting on the cleanliness row, an FCA spokesman told the newspaper, "We have a duty as an employer to highlight this sort of behaviour, and our senior management are clear it's simply unacceptable. Judging from the feedback we have received on the article, our staff agree." Alright, so that's the end of the article, so let me get some scriptures here. Let me see. Isaiah 24:5. So let's see what we got here. So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 24 and verse 5. It says, "The earth is also defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left." Let me read up a bit. Let me read that again from Isaiah 24:4. "The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth is also defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The new wine mourneth, and the vine languisheth, the merry-hearted do sigh. The mirth of tabret ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth." So basically, this kingdom's going down, man, and this article is a clear sign that things are just on a road to hell, man. Let me get Job chapter 30. This is Job 30:1, and this is speaking of you Edomites. It says, "But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers are disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Yea, whereto might strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They are driven forth from among men, they cried after them as a thief, to dwell in the clefts of the valleys, in the caves of the earth and in the rocks. Among their bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth." So, that's a cold cut to you Edomites, man. You're viler than the earth. And you might be walking around in like London thinking you're high and mighty, and yeah, we're doing it, and yeah, we got money and all this kind of shit. But if this is the kind of conditions that you're living in, and this is indicative of your whole society, man. The whole world under Esau's management is like a toilet with shit on the floor. Where people are just pissing and shitting on the floor and rolling around in it like the scripture says, drunken man staggereth in his own vomit, or a dog that returns to its own vomit. That's what the ignorant people who aren't coming back to the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, which is you Jakes, because you're the only people who can do that. But for the rest of you nations, man, you're all heathens, man, and you're outside of the temple and you're unclean. So it just is what it is. So with that, I brought this lesson out. Hopefully it's edifying. Giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Hashem, Yahshai, Hashem, Hakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of great millstone who rule well. Sincere shalom unto you, Akim, who pushing this word around the globe with faith and truth and in sincerity. And with that, until the next lesson I'm able to do, Lord willing, I'll say shalom.